From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee Pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. This is part 2 of our Epstein 2025 update. So, folks, if you are just hearing this, please do yourself a favor, pause, stop the tape, rewind to part 1 and listen through. We promise this will make a lot more sense, and we haven't futzed with the original recording.
Pay no attention to that missing 45 seconds in there. Nothing to see.
Oh, yeah. Just do us a favor. Take a screen capture of all of this, and then at some point stitch 2 of those together, and then just release it to the public.
And even better, make a book where you write weirdly cryptic notes to all of us. Tune in for our Epstein update saga, continuing as we speak in media res. Let's dive in. Enter Ghislaine Maxwell. So this, all the stuff we're talking about, these crazy statements, or by crazy we mean self-contradictory statements, this public distrust of those statements as well as institutions, artifacts like the tape or various documents that have or have not been messed with. All this is happening as the story of Ghislaine Maxwell unfolds. And as we mentioned, she was a longtime close partner of Epstein's. She is provably aided in his heinous crimes. She was convicted in December of 2021, sentenced to 20 years of incarceration. And ever since then, her legal team has been fighting to either mitigate her sentence or, just maybe, as we all heard, secure a presidential pardon.
Yuck. Sorry.
Yeah.
The fact that that's even on the table is bizarre.
Right. And there's been a lot of... I feel like there's been more reporting about presidential pardons now than we typically see at this point in any presidential administration, because usually you'll see a raft of pardons sail out right at the end of a presidential administration, right? It's like, my last week is POTUS. Let me pardon or commute the sentences of as many people as I like, right? Because now there aren't going to be campaign consequences for me. So it feels a little bit unusual to see so much visible news about the possibility of pardons this early in an administration. Ghislaine Maxwell had been repeatedly denied bail because, honestly, this is a super sketchy individual. The finances are so obscure, you guys. She's okay at hiding, though I think people are making more of that than they should. She did some not smart things when she was trying to escape the law, and she was hiding with, some former British military as security guards. But did you guys hear about how she attempted to wrap her phone with tinfoil?
Oh, yeah, we did an episode on how that doesn't work super well.
Yeah. Well, the latest things coming out about her that she and her attorneys are trying to do is to lean on this deal that Epstein made, right? Mm-hmm. Or the deal that was made with Epstein, let's say, that stated that they couldn't prosecute anybody else. There was any of Epstein's associates. Like it was a deal that said you cannot do that. And now she and her attorneys are trying to use that as leverage to get out of everything. Which
the attorneys should, right? Because this is happening with this is kind of a spaghetti at the wall approach for some of the legal proceedings.
Well, that's just a reminder to say that a lot of people were being protected by the Justice Department when they made that deal with Epstein the first time.
Right, when they set that precedent. Yeah, agreed. If we back up, one of the big reasons that Ghislaine Maxwell was always denied bail once apprehended is because authorities are worried that she might pull a Polanski. If she makes it to France, France will not extradite. And when I say Polanski, I'm meaning Roman Polanski, the disgraced filmmaker. Yeah.
Yes, he's made some bangers, but not a great guy, it would seem.
Mm-mm. No. In the wake of all these new revelations, this growing tension, and some really bizarre statements from the U.S. government and the president himself, Ghislaine Maxwell's legal team trebled their efforts to get a deal and started making progress. But before we go into that, why don't we talk about some of those statements? Not just recent statements in press conferences, not just the, oh my gosh, why are you still talking about Epstein stuff, but also newly discovered statements and writing from the past. I'm thinking particularly about the book that Maxwell had made for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday.
The birthday book.
The birthday book, wherein now the current president denies this, but the story is that in that book, there is a drawing of a nude woman with the autograph of the president where the pubic hair would be, and then a message contained within the silhouette, the drawing of the woman, that is just severely creepy. And we can actually go ahead and read this message if we haven't read it on air in full.
Was it make each day be another delicious secret, or it's something like that?
Okay, this is pretty nuts. We're just going to do it as a straight VO, but it's a dialogue. And this is one of many messages in the book. Voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything, the note began. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do. Come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. And this is where we get to the very creepy part that Noel, you mentioned here. I'm laughing out of being uncomfortable, by the way. Trump, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Yeah.
Talking about how enigmas never age.
Oh, right. Okay. Have you noticed that? And this was first revealed by a journalist at the Wall Street Journal. And when asked about this, the president denied having ever done this and specifically said, I never wrote a picture in my life.
No, never wrote a picture. But we know that he does. He loves big, chunky markers. He often draws on diagrams and things in public settings, and it's a thing that he's done. You can unearth easily any number of little doodles that he's done over the years. And the Wall Street Journal, by the way, owned by Rupert Murdoch, of Fox News fame.
And they're beefed up right now,
big
which
time.
goes
How's that
to a
lawsuit
larger
going?
context. If it takes too long in the courts, then Mr. Murdoch may not be alive to see it because he is well into his 90s at this point. We do know also, yes, to be fair, people when speaking extemporaneously can misspeak. They might get something factually incorrect. They might misremember something or misstate it. But this explicit denial seems pretty past that threshold of error. And there are many, many more people in the book because Ghislaine Maxwell had asked a lot of Epstein associates to contribute to this. It's like a scrapbook of fan mail.
And there's a manifest practically, isn't there? Or like a bibliography or a table of contents that's also floating around out there with other names, and Trump is most assuredly on that.
Dershowitz is in one. There are a lot of politicians, or Dershowitz wrote one, I should say. There are a lot of other politicians, titans of industry types. Yeah.
Yeah. On August 5th, the New York Times published a huge trove, and it includes personal messages from people like Woody Allen, as well as the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, and his wife, about how there's no limit to your curiosity. They stated, You are like a closed book to many of them, but you know everything about everyone. And they described him as a collector of people. And they said, may you enjoy long and healthy life, and may all of us, your friends, enjoy your table for many more years to come. Noam Chomsky was hanging out with him.
Not Noam.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Yep.
I like Noam.
Other billionaire moguls like Mortimer Zuckerman, Lawrence M. Krauss. We're talking people from MIT, people who headed MIT, people who headed Harvard, like Martin Nowak. It's insane the number of people that wrote in this 2016 63rd birthday thing.
Well, and just
it's about 5 dozen people.
Exactly. And just to say, y'all, I mean, Rupert Murdoch being, I guess, obviously he's a guy who wants to make money overall, but, has just historically been a bit of a Trump booster, at least in terms of his big properties being so behind Trump and all his political activities. Do you really think he would thumbs up the release of a thing like that if it hadn't been vetted 6 ways to Sunday?
No, I think that's why the administration assigned, beat me or Dylan, a ton of FBI operators to scour documents for any mention of Trump, of the literal word Trump, before they're released to the public. I also want to share, just to get a bigger sense of this, folks, I want to share one of the poems in the book from Leon Black, a billionaire of note.
Wait, Leon Black from Curb Your Enthusiasm? No. Sorry, that's his literal name in the show. That's really funny. Sorry.
That's good. No, not that Leon Black. Different Leon Black, billionaire who wrote a poem for Epstein on his birthday that said the following: blonde, red, or brunette, spread out geographically. With this net of fish, Jeff's now the old man in the sea. Even more on the nose. On the noise and on the nose.
Yeah. Dude, Woody Allen on the 2016 one. So there are two, just so everybody is aware. There's a 2003 50th birthday card that includes the Trump one, and then there's a 2016 63rd birthday. Wait, did I say that twice? They're 50th and 63rd birthdays. But Woody Allen in the 63rd birthday one, I'm going to read directly from some reporting out of The Guardian by Anna Betts. This was published on August 5th. This is from Woody Allen. He notes that the parties included, quote, politicians, scientists, teachers, magicians, comedians, intellectuals, journalists, and even royalty. And he describes the dinners as, quote, well served. And then he goes on. He says, I say well served. Often it's by some professional houseman, and just as often by several young women who remind him of Castle Dracula, where Lugosi has 3 young female vampires who service the place.
That's not the only thing they're servicing. That is la 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 la.
Yeah, and there are a lot of messages that I don't know. I think the poem especially, and the statement that Trump denies writing, along with several others, they're past the point of reading tea leaves, right? They're past the point of confirmation bias. Just to be clear, there are other things in there that seem like they're just saying happy birthday to some powerful guy.
For sure. I mean, he's just got a framed dollar bill that's signed by Bill Gates with the message, I was wrong. What's that about, Bill?
Paying back on a bet or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of smoke, y'all.
Yeah. And so I wanted to mention these things also in step with, again, more bizarre statements, or denials from the president that sometimes to critics look like guilty dog barks first kind of situations. All of this occurring while the Maxwell team is attempting to negotiate a better deal, whether that be a mitigation of a sentence or dismissal or pardon entirely. They are making progress. On July 23rd of this year, Maxwell was subpoenaed to testify to Congress under oath about her involvement with Epstein. Her legal team demanded full immunity from any additional prosecution for doing so.
Epstein is dead. What is the deal? Who does this benefit in terms of the justice of it all?
Because
you get an immunity deal because you turn other people in, or you get you help with the outcome of a case. I mean, I just don't understand what she has to offer that benefits anybody but bad people who don't want the light to be shown on them.
That's the thing, Noel. If Congress subpoenaed her successfully and she responded under oath to questions about possible Trump involvement with Epstein, then the target would become Donald Trump for the congressional investigation. That's the concern, or that's the hypothetical chess game people are playing out in their heads.
Well, it's because the pieces are falling together here, guys. The weird statements coming out from Trump connect things together that shouldn't be connected together. We just talked on Strange News about Virginia Joffrey, who died allegedly by suicide in April. And
spa employee
at Mar-a-Lago.
Yes.
Spa employee at Mar-a-Lago.
Who was
Jeffrey
taken,
Epstein,
who was stolen, quote unquote. Yes.
Yes. And you have a sitting president who says, I have the best spa. And by the way, she had no complaints about us whatsoever. It's talking directly about Virginia Joffrey, a person who was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein who just died in April.
No empathy, no statements being, heart going out to the family. All just, I did no wrong. I'm innocent.
If this was a true investigation, there is a direct connection from Mar-a-Lago to the island that Jeffrey Epstein was doing a lot of his stuff on, to the properties that he was doing this stuff on, with people who were workers of spas. And
they were down the street, by the way, Epstein and Mar-a-Lago. Yep.
So, I mean, that's why this won't go away. That's why all this is happening, because we're all kind of having to be investigators just as the public watching this go down.
There's a version of this where the Mar-a-Lago spa is a pipeline.
100%.
There most certainly is.
Hold the phone, folks. Mysterious phone call, jokes aside. We'll take a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. And we've returned. Okay, so going back to the excellent question you had there, Noel, about like cui bono, who does it benefit, who does it harm? The reason Maxwell would logically demand immunity from any additional prosecution is a safeguard mechanism, really. And there's something interesting that occurred immediately after. And I want to make sure we don't lose this. So this is the point we're getting at. It's July 23rd when that subpoena occurs. The U.S. Attorney, Todd Blanche, interviews Maxwell pretty much immediately, privately, the next day, July 24th and July 25th. Like that is one of the fastest movements of sicking the hound dogs that we've seen in a while.
And no conflict of interest there, right? I mean,
just because Todd happened to work closely.
He was in the neighborhood, right?
With the current president before he was the president, and then he got appointed, probably due to his loyalty to the current administration. And then, this guy just happened to have those days free, right?
Just a little pop in. Yeah.
Right. Just to check it. We don't know the substance of the interview, by the way. We don't know what they discussed, but they talked for a while. And we do know that as a result, very likely as a result of whatever the substance of their conversation was, Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred on August 1st from FCI Tallahassee, that's where she was being held, to a posh minimum security facility named the Bryan Federal Prison Camp. This is comparatively cushy, when you look at the rest of the U.S. justice system or incarceration system. This would be called Club Med or Club Fed in some circles. It is commonly regarded as one of the absolute best federal prisons. And there is no legal precedent for Maxwell getting shipped over there, especially as a convicted sex offender.
I think it goes without saying that none of this is like political mudslinging in any way, shape, or form. This stuff is just like it's the very nature of the concept of conspiracy and conspiracy theories all aligning in this like perfect storm. And there's no two ways about it. It's happening before our very eyes. I just think, I don't mean to belabor that point, but I just do think it maybe bears repeating.
Yeah, like the White Stripes said. It's also
exactly like the White Stripes said.
we're hitting on facts here, folks, even though this is here's where it gets crazy part of our episodes. This is historically unusual, unprecedented for an offender like Maxwell to be moved to the Bryan Federal Prison Camp. And when the administration was asked about this transfer and how unusual it was, they said there was no preferential treatment involved. This is a routine occurrence. It is, by the way, not.
Yeah. None of this is routine. Yeah. You don't do an interview like that.
Revisiting after the fact, right? This person's been convicted. There's what's the point? Sorry, Matt. I'm just upset. It's just.
There's too many things to remark on. The fact that there were no other law enforcement officials or Justice Department officials there when this interview was going down, between somebody who used to personally represent the president and a person who is going to be a cooperating witness. You have nobody else in the room? That's insane.
And what's in the box when we walk out? Like, this is where we find another set of questions, and agreed, insane. First, what does Maxwell know? As we talked about in our earlier Epstein series, does she possibly have a dead man switch? A dead man switch in this situation would be some kind of arrangement, or think of it as an insurance policy saying, I will release damning evidence to the press, to investigators who are not compromised, assuming, and to lawyers if things don't go my way or if I die. That's what we were wondering whether Jeffrey Epstein himself had. Also, will there be a possibility of a pardon, a commutation, something even more extreme than relocating to a nicer facility? A lot of analysts say this would be political suicide for politicians or officials involved. And there's some validity in claiming that. But then it gets to the third thing that a lot of people aren't really talking about in mainstream media coverage. And that's the allegations of Maxwell and Epstein being somehow involved with intelligence operations, And a lot of the red string there draws back to Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, newspaper tycoon, fraudster, politician, possible asset.
Isn't there a connection with Israeli intelligence? Yeah. That's a big one, right?
Yeah, with Robert Maxwell, for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
His own death remains mysterious, by the way. I don't know. What do you guys think about? We talked about this previously. I don't want to necessarily relitigate it, but what do we think? I'm interested in your opinions on whether there's any sand to the intelligence operation allegations here.
I'm curious to know what that would look like. Like, is this honeypot type operation stuff? Like, what are we talking here?
I think, guys, in our previous conversations, we pretty much proved, at least, from a common sense perspective, that this type of activity where there's clearly illegal activity occurring, just the fact that there are underage women there who have already come forward, right? There's illegal activity happening. To implicate any one of these powerful people in any way connected to that activity would be to have a little bit of control over them, right? Mm-hmm. What is compromat for? To make sure the people that you have compromat on do the you want them to do.
Yeah.
And I think it is 100% a compromat. This is my opinion. 100% a compromat operation. I think that Epstein and Maxwell were controlled or handled by someone or some group. And that what they did is they collected all of these people. They're literally a, quote, collector of people. And they would get dirt on them and then hold it. And then anytime one of these people was going to get out of line, you could pull that up and say, or just remind them, just with a little wink and a nod. Hey, remember that time we spent on Little St. James?
Oh, yeah.
Now you've got them under control.
And that speaks to the dead man switch of it all.
Yes.
Like, that's the unloading of choice members of that collective.
Well, and it's also, I imagine it's someone reminding them by leaking stuff to, these outlets.
And somebody's got to take the fall in the public eye of all of this. We need a body behind bars who was tied to it. Epstein's now dead. We got to keep her happy to some degree.
Or we need a distraction. Yeah, I'm very much on the same page with you guys' opinions. Is it okay if I give mine as well?
Oh, like, of course.
All right. So I
think that's how this works.
Here's what I think. Here's what I think in line with that, with dovetailing. Yeah. In the research, we're seeing definitely this, this similar pattern. It's not just the idea of compromat and blackmail. It's also the idea of paying for access into the inner circle, committing an act so that you do have this compromise on me, right? And yes. I think it occurs also in the realm of financial stuff. Yes. The sexual abuse is horrific and unclean and will always grab headlines, no matter what the alleged perpetrators try to do to stop that.
But there's some dirty deals on the books as well, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Again, Al Capone and tax evasion. You know what I mean? Because Capone did a couple of other things as well. But tax evasion was what he got nailed on. So that's right. The idea here goes into something that doesn't get talked about as much, which is financial compromise and control, perhaps occurring in step with this. It all adds up, right? It's bigger than hip hop, as Dead Prez was wont to say. I don't know. It's intensely unclear what's going to happen next with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like I appreciate that point, Noel, about the possibility of a fall guy, of someone to sew up the news story so the public can wipe their hands of it and move on to the next thing. But we also know that could be another distraction. You know,
I just think there's no way they can pardon her. It collapsed. I mean, if they did, the amount of dirt or whatever, the weighing of those options, it just seems like political suicide given what's going on to pardon this person.
But who, honestly, right now, where we sit on today, Monday, August 11th, 2025, who is going to do anything about it if they pardon her? Who could do anything?
Well, and he's a lame duck president, so there is no political suicide isn't even in the picture.
I mean, really?
in the current structure of the U.S. government, which might also be up for debate,
which might be twisted. You're 100% right, Ben.
But if she gets pardoned, guess where she's heading?
France.
So, like, you know, it's one of those things. I fear that it's one of those things where, because there are so many people in charge right now that are attached to this thing, so many powerful people that still live who are attached to this thing, she will get pardoned, or she won't be living for much longer, and that'll just be done, and they'll try and put it to bed again.
And then also, if we exercise some game theory from the Maxwell legal perspective, there may be certain public signals you have to send, but there may also be, especially now that we've relocated to the posh prison camp, there may be a reason to slowfoot some of this stuff, because you want a sustainable situation. You want to survive, right? And in this case, if even a fraction of the stuff that we are pretty convinced is true, then folks, fellow conspiracy realists, Maxwell is only alive so long as there is a use to that individual. And if there is some information provided that makes that individual no longer useful, then anything can happen. You know what I mean? There are third-story windows all throughout the country. Man. So, and even in France, right? I think that's the scary thing. We're talking about a very long reach here. You can get touched, and it's past extradition. Yeah.
Sorry, getting touched in this context.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
No, it's not a you thing. It's just where my head's at. It's twisted stuff.
And before we move on, let's take a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. And we're back. I want to bring up the phone call one more time, just because I think it's super important to everything that occurred, and I think it speaks to everything we're talking about right now. That weird thing where one of the last actions that Jeffrey Epstein took is that he needed to make a phone call. And he was allowed to make an unmonitored call from a shower area using a phone line that was intended only for attorney communication. So attorney-client privilege stuff, right? Nobody gets to listen to this conversation. According
legally.
to the official, yes. According to the official report, the unit manager there in the Department of Corrections, the senior officer in charge, made this thing happen for Epstein. Epstein said he wanted to call his mother. His mother died in 2003, you guys. This is 2019. He said he needed to call his mother, so the unit manager dialed a New York City area code. A man answered, and then he handed this phone to Jeffrey Epstein. The unit manager left Jeffrey Epstein alone in the shower area. Jeff talked to whoever this person was, and then later the unit manager had to call the corrections officer, Noel. Her last name's Tova Noel is her name. Called that person and said, hey, I need to get that phone back. But whatever, like anything could have been said on that phone call, right? But that is one of those crazy things that was allowed to happen, and it was one of the last actions that he took. When I'm thinking about things like a dead hand switch and things like that, I just imagine that phone call probably had way more significance than we'll ever know.
And that reminds me also of the 2-day interview process that Ghislaine Maxwell encountered that we just mentioned, because started looking into Maxwell, who could be an episode all her own. We've uncovered a lot more questions about her career as a socialite, her philanthropy. Of particular interest is something called the Terra Mar Project, something she co-created, a NGO focused on protecting the oceans. Sounds pretty innocuous. She gave a TEDx talk on this, I think, in 2014. She attended the United Nations a couple times to talk about this. The concerned public isn't asking too many questions about her philanthropic ties just yet, but I believe the concerned public should.
Yeah.
Instead, they're wondering whether she has access to this client list.
Well, it's a good way to get her in a room with a lot of important people, right? Do a TED Talk, go to the United Nations. Those are more folks to get on the list.
Absolutely. And we've got to mention this list. So it's the term "the list" has become shorthand, right? For an alleged list of clients participating in the sexual abuse ring. It is different, to a point Noel made earlier, from the record of folks who just flew on the plane. It's different from the list of clients who purely worked with him for financial dealings. It is completely possible, for instance, that someone did, like, let's say I'm a Russian oligarch and I work with Epstein purely to launder money, but I'm not involved with the sex stuff. Right. So that oligarch would still be a criminal, but just a different genre of criminal.
And maybe to be devil's advocate, that term, the list, or this idea of this amorphous thing, it has become a little bit of a shorthand, even in the way that Pam Bondi is getting railed for, acknowledging the existence of such a list. It's on my desk, quote unquote, and then turning around and saying that no such list exists, because the walking back of that was, oh no, I was just referring to the general documentation surrounding the case rather than the list.
Yeah, turning into a buzzword, into a thought-terminating cliche. They're trying to make the list be a thing that can be dismissed. Accidental rhyme there. But the idea is it's a registry with details of people, places, times, dates, and their participation in abuse in particular. A lot of people have already been proven to have associated with Epstein to one degree or another. And many of those named have not been proven to be members of the inner circle of abuse. Instead, it's more a case of powerful people knowing other powerful people. But there are notable cases of alleged abuse associated with Epstein dating back years and years. I'd say the most well-known right now, the one that everybody agrees is guilty, would be Prince Andrew from the tribal rulers of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, because he was named by Virginia Joffrey and several others.
And he doesn't sweat, but he does sweat.
Oh, yeah. So we know some people don't draw pictures. Some people don't sweat. You know how it goes, guys. It's just weird stuff.
He was born without sweat glands.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this.
Guys, when I think about the list, I think about the security cameras that are known to have been in the residences of Jeffrey Epstein, in all of them. He had a lot of security cameras. And you know what he probably did? He probably recorded a lot of that footage on those security cameras. Right. And when I imagine the list, I imagine people who went in to certain rooms and then came out of certain rooms with certain people. And I imagine that being officially the list.
If not video of what went down in the rooms themselves.
100%.
We're thinking about pervy type dudes like that. You know, he's got cameras everywhere. I just have no doubt.
Yeah, 100%. I'm thinking, well, we know he had heavily surveilled the interiors of his residencies. That's exactly what I'm talking about with the idea that all this hardware disappeared each time the authorities investigated. Just it's gone. And there had to be stuff on there. There have been also some pieces of video footage emerging that are intensely troubling. Obviously, when we're talking about people being on a list or a blackmail registry of compromised folks, the one everybody in the U.S. is wondering about is the president of the United States, Donald Trump, perhaps most famous as being the guy who was briefly in Home Alone 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he helped little Kevin find the lobby.
This is the heart of the matter, right? Because as we said, the current administration championed the idea of finally exposing powerful, invidious criminals, draining the swamp, clearing out the shady backroom politics, the wasteful spending. They said we're also going to expose the truth about this possible cover-up. But we
need a ballroom. Sorry.
Yeah, but it doesn't appear. It's okay. It's going to be really tasteful.
God,
look up a picture of it, and look up the gold toilets as well. I would say that we had, look, regardless how you feel, folks, the Make America Great Again movement in its heyday had this enormous support and enormous momentum. A lot of the support for investigating the Epstein stuff came from decision makers and influencers in the MAGA movement and was tied to the context of Pizzagate, the belief that a secret cabal of very powerful people were involved in a separate sexual abuse and trafficking ring.
Yeah, and it was all Democrats.
And it happened to all be Democrats, right? At this point now, the once ardent support for the current presidential administration is waning in that sphere because a lot of former and current supporters, some of whom are deeply identified with the MAGA movement, some who are simply more conservative-leaning people, they're questioning, even if they weren't originally questioning the Epstein investigation, now they're questioning the weird signals the administration is sending out about it. You know, like the president himself is saying, "What? Don't talk about this. Talk about this other thing. We're going to release this stuff. Oh, we're not going to release it. Oh, Jeffrey and I were good friends. Oh, I didn't know him that well. It turns out he's not. He was never that big at life, or whatever that quote was. Remember that one?
Yeah, guys, it's really making me. All of this is making me feel really, really bad for Dan Bongino. Because that's one of these dudes who felt all of these things, pushed for all these things, finally finds himself in this position. And it seems to me like he's having to work around whatever roadblocks are getting put in his way. And he has to just pretend like this is what it is and everything's okay and everything's fine. Don't look over here. But that dude was the one pushing for all of this stuff. I don't know. It genuinely makes me feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, and if anything, there's a parable we see in this regard, or a takeaway. Telling people there's nothing to see here rarely does anything other than inspire deeper, more frenzied investigation. This leads us to the following note. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Whatever we may personally believe, the official statements coming from the U.S. government hold a pattern of contradiction, sometimes between their own sources and agencies. What on earth is happening? We'd love to hear your thoughts, folks. For better or worse, this does appear to be the stuff they don't want you to know. We want to hear from you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks to our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal. Find us on email, call us on the telephone, find us on the internet.
That's right. You can find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on the internet at your various social media platforms of note, and that includes X, FKA, Twitter, YouTube, with video content galore for you to enjoy and comment on, and Facebook with our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy. On Instagram and TikTok, however, we're Conspiracy Stuff Show.
Do you want to call us and maybe have your voice show up in one of our listener mail episodes? Why not call 1-833-STDWYTK? It's a voicemail system. You've got 3 minutes. Give yourself a cool nickname and let us know within the message if we can use your name and message on the air. If you'd like to send us an email, you can. We are
the entities that read each piece of correspondence we receive. Be well aware, yet unafraid. Sometimes the void writes back. What do we mean? We mean thank you to everybody who's given us great suggestions for strange news or for an episode. We also want to thank everybody who's writing in to ask for a random fact. And thanks to Brock, who sent us a random fact of their own. Lemons are a hybrid cross of 2 other fruits. No one is really sure which 2 fruits were crossed to create lemons, which means that, historically speaking, life never gave us lemons. Humans created them ourselves. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.